The Strength Camp Show. Your host, Chris Barner.
Elliott Hulse.
Mr. Elliott Hulse.
Here for the Strength Camp Show.
Absolutely. Hey, so today we wanted to talk to you guys more along the lines of training and coaching. You know, Strength Camp is a semi-private group fitness. A lot of you guys who are watching have expressed to us that you are coaches as well. Not only coaches in a personal setting, but coaches in a more group setting. So when Elliott and I were talking this morning, we figured we'd go ahead and share with you guys some of our methods as far as not just coaching group, but also coaching one-on-one. I guess we can go over both parts and kind of just lead you through our series or our method of how we do it. You know, as far as coaching one-on-one to group, there's so many similarities, but there's obviously huge differences. Because not only are you controlling one energy and trying to get the most out of one person, you're trying to get the most and obviously the correct form out of up to 30. I mean, we've had 50 people in the class before in some of our classes. So it takes a really skilled technician to be able to perform something of that nature. And what we noticed is for us, we had it. You know, it was kind of like through football, some of our best coaches what taught us how to essentially coach. So we mocked them to a point where it ingrained in us, it integrated within us, and then we were able to do it. We were able to bring our energy to the table every single time. One thing that I absolutely loved when I first met you was when I saw you coach a whole baseball team. You know, and then I was able to take my instances, see what, bounce a couple ideas off of you, and then take what I learned from even my best coaches. You know what I mean? And I think that's why a lot of our coaches, some of the best coaches were former athletes. But we noticed is as we started expanding, how do we teach this to other guys? Maybe not everybody, or maybe some guys were athletes but don't have the best coaching abilities.
And that's what we're doing with Strength Camp International. I think it's important to say that the reason why we're brushing up on this and nailing it down is because next week, or the week after next, we're having over 20 Strength Camp ambassadors coming here for Strength Camp Ambassador Boot Camp. This is where we train our ambassadors to become great coaches like we pride ourselves on in Strength Camp. So Chris has a beautiful system here that he has been able to amalgamate, is that the right word? Draw down in order to deliver that to these guys.
Create a system around, And so what we do is when we have any of our coaches, we do an extensive course which we call leader. And this is exactly, you could break this down to how to instructing one single movement or how you're basically conducting the whole class. And I think it does start with that one direct movement because that's what the coach needs to have. They need to have a system that they can continuously duplicate over and over again so that they can teach that particular people. Or let's say you have 5 people who have been to the class for, you know what I mean, for the last year, and then all of a sudden you got 2 newcomers who have never done a front squat or a deadlift before. So you gotta have a system or a way of teaching, and that's what we've developed here and what we call leader. So leader essentially stands for lead, establish and educate, advise, demonstrate, execute, and resolve. So those are the steps of how you go through one particular movement. And we can actually take these and start to break them down, and we can utilize an actual movement of how we go through the class and the importance of each key issue. So starting with the top is lead. You know, for the first 10 to 15 seconds, you want to gather the entire class, however many people, whether it be 1 or whether it be 30. I tell all of our guys, it doesn't matter. You give them the same service. If the president's, if you're teaching the president, right? You want to gather your class. And this is really where you start to establish yourself as what I call the general of the floor. These people are paying you for your service. They entrust you, right? So they want to be led. They're not paying you to say, oh, let me go ahead and teach the class, right? That's why they hired a coach. So I think it's so important, and I think it's almost like a forgotten method for people to just essentially establish. Not only that, you have some people who are like getting a drink of water, you have some people over here not paying attention. You got to establish that dominance right up in front and let them know who's boss, basically.
They hire you to be boss. And a lot of times I think we dim our lights in order to be congenial. But nobody gets results from a congenial dude, a nice guy. My dad used to say, nice guys finish last. You really got to step up and be the aggressive leader. I remember I didn't care. Here's just how I am. I didn't care about the workout in the first stages of teaching a team or even reteaching a team how to do an exercise. I would stop the entire class if one guy was doing the deadlift wrong. And those guys over there might be doing it okay, but I want them to hear it again. I don't care. Workout is secondary to me. This is primary because we're teachers before we're motivators.
Right.
A lot of times we're more interested in having them sweat or get a good workout. No, I'm more interested in you getting the education that's associated with having a good workout, the foundation of having a good workout, and that is about teaching. So if you've got to turn, and here's another thing too, the fucking music. I don't know how you guys train, coach people, when you got this music blasting. First of all, I don't like music on when I'm training because it fucks up my vibe. I want to hear my breath and my heartbeat. Those are the only two rhythms that I allow into my body at that moment. But if you're training an entire group of people and you have to establish dominance and you got Migos, you got Migos blasting on the radio, they're listening to fucking Migos, they're not listening to you. Shut that shit off. Everybody come here right now, listen up closely. Hey, yeah, put that down. Come on over here. And then I'll demonstrate and I'll go through this entire process. If I have to do it 10 times in a workout, that's what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's so important because it sets the tone. And that really kind of goes into the next aspect of what you're talking about. E stands for establish and educate. So immediately, like say something, for instance, if you're doing a deadlift, for going off of what you said, immediately for the next 10, 15 seconds, it's so important for the coach to establish exactly what movement they're about to perform and why they're going to perform it. So we're constantly trying to educate. We always like to say our clients are the smartest ones in the city, right? And one thing that we absolutely love is for us to, and even if it's a class, and this is such an important thing, even if it's a class of people that you've been working with for a while, and they know, it's like, oh my gosh, they want to throw up every time, but you respect yourself, you respect your coaching, and you respect your process every single time. And what we do is essentially, hey, we're performing a deadlift. This is why we're performing. This is a bend pattern. Whatever it is, it's just a simple 10 seconds, but it's establishing, like you said, exactly what we're doing for that day. And then moving on, we get into actually instructing.
Well, hang on. Let's talk a little, are we on E?
Yeah.
Real quick, because there's a lot to that there too. As far as repetitive, I like what you said there about repetitiveness, because if you've been here for a year and you've heard this 50 times, I want you to hear it 51 times because I have an expectation for you. Right. And this is where you begin to leverage your process, but really your clients, right? You leverage the process of repeating yourself over and over and over again by establishing what I like to call client coaches. So you got a guy who's been here a year. He's heard you say this 1,000 times. He could probably repeat it in his sleep, and he should. Your best client should be able to repeat your cues in their sleep. They should hear you saying the same shit over and over and over again until they're brainwashed with it. Now you can step away and say, hey, Bob, make sure Jim is doing that properly. He's all fucked up. You know what Bob's going to do? He's going to repeat the same shit that you said like a robot over and over again in that guy's ear, and you could trust him. 100%. Now, you want to be able to establish such an environment that you could walk away and you know that they're all doing it the right way, and if they're not, someone's going to step up. By giving other guys responsibility too, you also bolster their self-confidence. You give them that sort of swag that lets them know, hey, Elliott trusts me enough that if his back is turned, I can go ahead and coach you. Critical for when you have a big class.
Huge, absolutely, absolutely. And that's exactly what leads into essentially advise and demonstrate, because advise essentially stands for us speaking what they're actually doing, the cues that that we're referring to. So as far as a deadlift, every single one of our coaches, for us, it was all about autonomy. How do we get everybody repeating the same thing? Not only our coaches, but everybody in the exact class. So when they go through advising the actual movement, that's the step that they're actually telling them exactly what to do. How to approach the bar, shoulder width apart, how to grab the bar. Every single thing that we do down that chain of command is established there. Not only that, Demonstrate is actually visually doing it. So we talked about earlier that there's 3 types of learning, right? And some people are obviously split up into different, visual and auditory mostly being the majority of the way that people learn.
Well,
but there's also kinesthetic as well.
Big time.
So advise and demonstrate really tries to kind of hamper all 3 of those learning processes for each people. So not only are we telling them exactly what to do with cues, but we're also visually demonstrating at this point. So if we're doing a deadlift, and then like you said, kinesthetic is huge because a lot of coaches don't know how to use kinesthetic.
Everything we do in the gym is kinesthetic.
Right.
The whole process, the reason why they're there is for kinesthetic education. It's number 1 with what we're doing. If you're in school, it's auditory. If you're watching a video, it's visual. If you're in the fucking gym, it's kinesthetic. So one of the ways I like to teach people is to get them to do it wrong or uneducated first. I'll show you, like Chris is saying, I will demonstrate. I will show you first. And I'll direct your attention to what you should be looking at. A lot of times you showing people shit, but they're not seeing what you want them to see. You showing people shit and they're looking at your head. But I want you to look at my ankles. So I'll direct you to, hey, I'm doing this squat, I'm doing this deadlift. Watch my ankles. Boom, you see that? Watch my knees. Boom, see that? So you want to be as direct as you can with where you put their attention.
Another one that I absolutely love, but another one that I absolutely love that you'll direct to is like, say for instance, you're teaching a deadlift and you're trying to get somebody to essentially retract their shoulder blades. It's literally just pulling, you know, I remember for me, it was like huge one where it was just pull your shoulder blades down and back.
Again, that's a kinesthetic cue.
Absolutely.
When you tap and touch somebody, that's the part that I forgot. Kinesthetic teaching means give them an opportunity to do it wrong first. That way you can feel what the other end of the spectrum's like. So I know you haven't done it yet, and a lot of people are gonna be nervous. Elliot, I've never done this before. Can you teach me a little bit more? No. Pick up that bar the way you feel fit. A lot of times when I'm trying to assess somebody to see where their muscular imbalances are, I won't even teach them what to do by showing them. I want you to pick it up so I can see, that's where you fucked up. And then with the kinesthetic teaching, there is, now here's how it feels to do it right. And you're spot on. Put your fingers on the areas that typically go limp. People's the subscapularis, these muscles back here, oftentimes go weak, go limp. When you tap those muscles and when you bring your fingers, put your fingers at the bottom of somebody's shoulder blades and you bring them together, you don't have to tell them shit. They're just going to move into it. Another muscle, two other spots that typically go limp that people need tapping sometimes are their core, their abdominals. When you tap somebody in their abdominals, I did it just now, they brace. And the other one is their glutes. You know, I'm not talking about massaging or molesting somebody's booty. I'm talking about take your fingers and tap it right into their glutes so that that muscle turns on. Absolutely. And even for me, like working with a lot of athletes, I don't know how many times I use even just that. You know what I mean? When I'm having an athlete be able to come out of a 40 stance and trying to get the hip activated from the back leg, being able to utilize both hips or both legs when they're performing hip extension, I'm constantly tapping them certain areas to get them to turn certain things on. And obviously, like you said, a lot of times the muscles that they need to activate are the more dormant ones. So it's a matter of being able to simply, but obviously in a, what's the word should I say? Non-sexual, in a way where you can respect that person, obviously. Take your fingers and tap, just like this. Close hand, bap, 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 bap.
Absolutely, not like you said, don't go touching.
Not like this, no palms, open hand.
Yeah. And then next is getting into, after we've established the movement, we've taught them what to do, we've explained it through cues, through actually going through the process. We've done it, we've demonstrated it, so we've actually visually done it. Next is time to actually execute the movement. So for the next 5 to 20 minutes, however long that movement takes or whatever, how many reps and sets they have, we're executing. But more than just them executing, what is it as a coach that you're doing to command a floor of 20, let's say? Well, it depends on the circumstance, but if I've got a room of 20 and this is the first time they're doing an exercise, I'll do a number of different things. Like number one, if somebody's doing it right, I'll stop the class. Hey, check it out. You see how Bob's doing it right now? Do you notice what is going on right there? Good, good. Go back to doing what you're doing. And the wrong way. I love when I see somebody doing it the wrong way and I can draw everybody's attention to it. Hey, everybody stop. Look what Jim is doing right now. Can anybody tell me what's going on wrong right there?
Jim, you got to pick your chest up. Oh, good, very good. That applies to everybody here. Yeah, you got to be a teacher first.
100%.
And the best way to teach is to make examples of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I absolutely love to do is I like to teach our guys to basically be, you know, have energy on the floor. And also know, because what happens is sometimes is coaches, when they're having a class of 20, they'll focus in on one person and 18 other people. So it's a matter of, if you need to work with this person, it's gathering everybody's attention to bring it to this person, as opposed to 20 other people, and now for the last 20 minutes you were working on one person. That's a huge
let everybody know what's going on.
Right.
Hey, listen, I'm going to be working with Jim over here for a couple minutes. Continue to doing what you're doing. If you have any questions, let me know. Like, let people know what's going on all the time. All eyes and ears should constantly be on you.
Right.
That's why I turn the fucking music off. Pay attention to me, my voice, and what you're doing.
100%. And the one other thing that I mentioned to our guys is every movement you should be giving 100 cues. Whether that be broken up 50-50, meaning 50 technical, meaning them specifically telling people what to do, or what I even like to do is I say 50 where it's just motivational.
Yeah.
You're constantly talking as a coach. The worst thing that I see is when guys sit back and are just observing. Now, obviously you're observing during that, but you're constantly giving feedback to your clients. You're constantly giving feedback each and every time. So whether that, if somebody's doing it perfect, you're still cueing them in some form or fashion. So think 100 cues per movement, no matter what you're doing. And if you have to work with somebody, essentially, you know what I mean, you're obviously working with that person. Like you said, by you demonstrating and telling them what they're doing wrong, that's cues to everybody else who's watching. So I think it's very important when you're executing the movement, how to control your energy, and constantly, like you said, constantly taking command of everything that you're doing during that time.
Nobody should ever be wondering what you're doing as a coach.
Right.
They should either be listening to you, watching you, or aware of what you're doing, and in some way, shape, or form has to be adding to the group. So if you're on your fucking cell phone, or you're having some bullshit conversation with somebody over here about what they did this weekend, and the rest of the class is not sure where you're at, you're like an absentee parent. Kids are going to go wild, or they're going to get low self-esteem because they don't think you're available for them. Your kids, your clients are like your kids. One of the things I learned about children is don't have too many rules. It's just my experience raising children, and it works in the gym. Don't have too many rules. I'm not about making a whole lot of rules. I'm about having a few rules and repeating them shit over and over and over again. That's the same way with your clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. And then finishing off is just R, which is resolve. I think, to me, this is beyond a lot of it. This, to me, lead, the first one, and resolve are the most important. Because like you said, it's, you know, you're going to have people who are not doing it 100% right. You know, your job as the coach is to continue to progress that person and not put them in an uncompromised manner. Meaning, hey, this person, that front squat, the deadlift doesn't look ideal, but everybody moves a little bit different. As long as they're not in an uncompromised position, or we can regress that movement, we continue to move on. So every single time that we perform a movement, the ideal technique isn't going to be there. But what is ideal is how you, the coach, are showing up, how you're starting and establishing the movement, and how you're ending the movement, right? And I think it's so important because a lot of coaches just kind of allow the movement or the coaching to kind of end on its own. And I think it's so important for you to establish and finish. Like we said, we like to conduct ourselves very, you know, if you consider kind of military-like, where we're very on point with every single thing that we do. And one of those is resolving the movements, resolving the class at the exact same time, so everybody knows this is established and we're finishing now at this time. And I think it takes skill for the coach to be able to, you know, if Sally's on 5 sets of 5, Johnny's on 5 sets of 5 deadlifts, he might be doing a little bit more than her. She might get done a little bit faster, but that's how you're balancing the resting, the reps, the sets as they're completing those, and then being able to complete everybody at the same time. And for me, I think that's one thing that our coaches do extremely well that I think a lot of people lack. And I think, again, it doesn't allow for interpretation or anything loosey-goosey. It allows them to finish on time, and it allows us to repeat and duplicate our process over and over again like clockwork. So I think
absolutely. One of the things that you touched on just a moment ago as it relates to resolve is descending movements or giving alternative movements to some of your clients. Here's the plain and simple truth. A lot of your clients aren't going to know how to do what you're teaching them to do. And even when you teach them how to do it, they're still not going to be able to do it. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with the fact that maybe they're stupid or uncoordinated. They've got muscular imbalances that are unresolved that need to be dealt with. This is where the art of coaching comes in. If you know at the end of the class, this person, well, he's having a hard time doing this exercise because he's got really tight levator scapula. He just doesn't know how to drop his shoulders. So he's constantly here the whole time. Every time he's rowing, every time he's squatting, he's here. You go up to him at the end of the class and you explain to him, or you let everybody know at the end of the class, hey, look, if you guys are having a hard time with your traps, with your levator scapula, and you're constantly in poor posture while you're doing this exercise, and no matter how much I cue you, you can't seem to fix it, well, then offer them a little bonus. Here's a little stretch that you could do. Do this stretch in between your sets. Do it at the end of the workout because those muscles were very hyperstimulated. So you're resolving the unattainable ideal that you would have for them. It's a matter of resolving the class by giving them things that they can do at home perhaps, or before they get to the workout perhaps, that will allow them to be better at what they do next time.
Absolutely. And that's where you get to practice the skill of coaching. That's where you're allowed to show your expertise as a coach. And I think that once you get better and better and better in the group setting is what allows you to really start to pick apart, because you can easily, quickly, and I've seen you do it, quickly be able to give one cue or one thing for somebody to do in a large group setting that all of a sudden changes their life or changes the way that they're able to move for the remainder of that movement or beyond. You know what I mean? So I think that's extremely important. Progression and regression is huge for what you're doing in a group setting. And you know, not to mention, obviously we go through a whole plethora. We have an entire system based on our core values and virtues of how we apply to our coaching. You know what I mean? We have a series of virtues that we essentially abide by here at Strength Camp, and we have a complete system built around that, and we kind of work our guys into that and why we're doing certain things. But you know, it's not for nothing, beyond the movement, the interaction with the actual client. You know, there's certain things that we take upon ourselves to be able to, that we've actually broken down and systematized for our ambassadors, of just, you know, even going as little as just how you're showing up, how you're, you know, breaking down your things such as hygiene. You're not doing it for, you know, you could be all natural, you could do that for yourself, but remember, you're respecting somebody else now. There's certain things about being a certain time to the class, making sure that you're 10 minutes present before the actual class so that you can essentially have everybody ready. How can we ask everybody to be on the line? Because at our gym, when you come in, if you've ever been to a strength camp, you know that class starts on the dot every single hour. It doesn't matter. The coach needs to be there and be present. But how can we ask our people to be present for that if our coach isn't there, you know, 10 minutes prior? So it's really conducting ourselves like that and how we're interacting. Now, obviously there's a whole slew of things that we go over when we're interacting with an actual client, you know, because we understand on a deep psychological level, there's many different things that they might be experiencing. Simple one, somebody coming in with our gym, there happens to be an increase of intimidation when they come into our gym. We pride ourselves off the grittiness of our gym. Now, obviously, we're giving extremely good coaching, high level expertise, but with that, we pair it with a grittiness, a kind of, you know, you're working out with trash sometimes, you know what I mean, with kegs and sandbags and tires, and even though, you know, we have that grittiness, we want to make sure that we can establish ourselves in our relationship. So one thing that we do when they first walk in is you drop everything and you say hi, especially if it's a new person. So there's a lot of slew of things that you need to do on the back end of how you're interacting with coach, which is appropriate and which is inappropriate.
I read a quote recently that says, a great leader, let's say that again so Danny can use this for a meme if he wants. A great leader doesn't tell you what to do. A great leader shows you by being it.
Yes.
So it has a whole lot less sometimes to do. And I tell you, the best example of that was my strongman coach, Tom Mitchell, back when I started learning strongman. The man didn't talk very much at all, but he would stand there and demand with his look. You know, it's one of these things where, like, my dad was this way too. He said something so many times that it gets to a point where he's just standing there and looking at me. I think people listening need to know too is that becoming a strength camp ambassador is, and that all comes from you abiding by those very things that you ask your pupils, your clients, your students, and your children to do. I would hope that my children don't drink alcohol, particularly at a young age. So I stopped drinking alcohol in my house. That's a big part, or at all. If I want my children to take on my value, if I want my clients to take on my values, I have to be that first. Otherwise, it's just fucking hot air.
Absolutely. And I think, 100%. I believe you need to walk the walk. Yeah. And it's crazy, but I believe that a lot of the athletes that I train now came from me purely being able to be athletic myself. Right. So there's a level of trust that they have when they see that, and that comes not just on a training level, but everything down below, how you're conducting yourself, and I believe in that 100%.
That's why I say coaching is kinging, because the king quality is all about sovereignty, about being the thing.
Right.
And what does a king do when he's established himself? He pours his blessings out to his kingdom. He can't help but empower the realm because he's being the thing. They say that it's not that the king establishes order, it's that where the king is, order exists. And that's how it is with each one of our coaches, and that's how we coach. Coaching is kinging, be the thing, and order is established.
Absolutely. So I hope that helps you guys out as far as our kind of method, our system, a little touch on it, if you will, of how we conduct ourselves and how we teach our ambassadors. We're gearing up to be able to teach them in the next 2 weeks. We get really excited for this. We love to be able to see them not only kind of come in as a vanilla kind of not really green, I should say, and then all of a sudden leave as somebody.
We're making them green.
Absolutely.
They're coming in white. We're making them green.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're gearing up for that, and I hope that you guys were able to receive some value out of our process.
One of the things that I think people listening need to know too is that becoming a strength camp ambassador is about owning your own gym and having your own non-job. But the process of becoming an ambassador is full-on education.
Yes.
We were just working on our curriculum for the Strength Camp Ambassador Boot Camp coming up in the next 2 weeks. Man, you're signing up for the greatest education in fitness that you would ever purchase, that you would ever buy. But you don't buy it, you become a part of our team, and we deliver it to you. You're learning how to be a stronger version of yourself first, so that you can deliver these processes to your clients and your customers. You're learning marketing. You're learning the Strength Camp method. You're learning what it may take, and took me decades to ultimately learn. We're condensing it down into 1 week. You walk out of here, green as fuck.
Absolutely, 100%. I look forward to it.
Yep, very good. We'll talk to you guys next week, next time. Done.